A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
It's my joy today to have Gary Bates with me in the studio. Gary Bates used to run Creation Ministries International in Australia, then went to the US for 14 years and headed it up there. He's now back in Australia and joins us in the studio at Vision Radio. Gary, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be back. Plush new studios than the ones I used to see when I was living here.
Yeah, times have changed, Gary, and they will continue to change. But tell us about your time in the US.
Yeah, so Creation Ministries International, we're a ministry with 7 offices around the world, and I was based here in Brisbane. And then I was asked by the board of the US and the Australian board to go and head up the US office. My wife, Fran, she was an events manager, and part of our job prior to that was going to those overseas offices and doing training there, you know, not only for the speakers, but for management and events management, getting some of the churches to host speaking events. But in the US, we only had a very, very small office, so it was really foundational work that we went over there to do. And yes, so 14 years there, incredible experiences. Obviously, particularly in the South, it's very conservative, quite Christian-centric. We often used to tell people where our office was in Atlanta, Georgia, there were more churches in Atlanta, evangelical churches in Atlanta, than in the whole of Australia.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I used to pass 13 churches on my way to work into the office every morning. However, no one had really heard of Creation Ministries International when we got there. So, you know, because of the church saturation, it was quite difficult to get ministry. Most churches here, if we rang them, they've heard of us in Australia. But you know, the message was so well received, the message of, you know, biblical creation, spoken in, you know, our ministry. It doesn't matter whether it's a church of 20 people or 5,000 people. The largest event I did there was actually at Liberty University for the morning convocation, you know, following in the footsteps of, you know, Billy Graham and all these people. And it was sensational. Third day, Matt Powell led the worship and 14,000 young people sitting in the audience, you know. So if you'd have told this little boy from Perth many years ago when I left to come and join the ministry here that you'd be doing something like that, you know, I'd have said, don't be silly. But I think it's a great example. I'm always a believer in that expression that God doesn't want your ability, but he wants your availability. And that's what we've experienced is when we put ourselves out there and tried to be faithful. And yeah, there's no magic bullet. It's hard work, but the ministry is in great shape there. So we've come back to Australia to kind of partially retire now as we wind down a little bit. And but here I am still speaking on the radio.
Yeah, have you seen that movie for King and Country that came out recently?
No.
Oh, you should go and see it. It would resonate with you because it's about the family. They moved over there, obviously, and with nothing and did that hard yard you just mentioned. And, of course, the rest is history for King and Country are massive over there now in the Christian music scene. But so what would you, looking back on your 14 years, what would you say one of your biggest achievements was?
I think finding the right people in the office. The staff and the board were very nice, gave us a wonderful retirement party. And, you know, people got up to speak and they talked about the books I'd written, you know, Alien Intrusion, which was an Amazon top 50 bestseller, the only creation book to do that. We made a movie. But I honestly think our greatest legacy is finding the right people because we are a science-based organization. But the reality is, Andrew, you know, if you take a PhD scientist out of the college system in the United States and say, well, come and work for a creation ministry, he's done. His career's finished. He's never going to get a job back in that academic world. Yeah. So, one, it's a big risk for people to come and join a ministry like CMI, and it's the same here in Australia. We've got PhDs here. That exactly the same applies to them. We're faith funded, so you know we have to. When I'm recruiting those PhDs, as a manager, as a CEO, I've not got to try to find their salary for the next 12 months. I've got to maybe find it for the next 12 years. In terms of how the ministry is going, so finding the right people, the right crew that are not there to earn a salary. They're there because they want to serve the Lord in what we believe is a very, very important ministry. So now, having said that, when you get the right people, that obviously then can supercharge the ministry in all sorts of areas. Fran, my wife, was over there training the events managers, and the young man that was her understudy in the events department is now the CEO of Creation Ministries International US. So he's running the show over there. But one of the most exciting things, I think, which was new for the ministry, was making a couple of movies. The first movie we made was one called Evolution's Achilles Heels. People can go to creation.com or even Amazon and download it and stream it, or buy the DVD.
And what's the name of the movie again?
Evolution's Achilles Heels.
Evolution's Achilles Heels.
Yeah. So this was where, in the movie version, 15 PhD scientists who had got their degrees in things like radiometric dating, geology, cosmology. These are the pillars of evolutionary theory. And evolution makes predictions. If evolution's true, we should see this. So we took those 15 PhDs, creationists, and said, is this what we see in the real world? And in that sense, it invalidated the theory of evolution because, as I said, it made predictions, and those predictions didn't come to pass. Now, not having made a movie before, and we kind of did that in-house for a very small budget, but we won second prize at the world's largest Christian film festival in San Antonio. And I remember sitting at a board meeting, and everyone was massively encouraged by it, and the directors turned around and said, well, you should make a movie about your book. And I remember the amount of hours and work that went into making Evolution's Achilles Heels. I kind of said, well, you need to find someone else to do it. I haven't got the stomach for that again. But having said that, I retracted, and I said, well, if I'm going to make another movie, at least I know now not how to make it, right? I think I've learnt from the past mistakes. So I went away, asked them for 2 weeks out of the office. I went away, wrote an 80-page script, came back, said to the events department, these are all the people I want to interview, and that included traveling around the world and in places like South Korea. Got that out of the way, and then literally for 12 months sat there during post-production, getting the special effects done. We got a special soundtrack written by an Australian guy who wrote the music for the Outback Adventure on the Gold Coast. It's an incredible thing that you're able to do that kind of in-house. We fundraised for it, raised about $150,000 throughout our offices worldwide, and on a subject that a lot of Christians don't know about, but people have had experience with. Every church I go to, somebody says, well, I saw something in the sky, and tell me what it was. We were in over 1,000 theatres around the world for one night only, including here in Australia, 51 theatres, cinemas in one night.
And that was called Alien Intrusion?
Alien Intrusion, Unmasking a Deception. So again, people can get the DVD or stream it on Amazon or creation.com, etc. So that was kind of neat, to sit in a cinema that night and see something that is kind of your baby, because I'm really the only one in the ministry and one of the very few Christians in the world, in fact, that deals with the whole UFO alien subject. And so, that was a good benchmark, for the ministry. Again, hard work, but a moment of pride and joy, obviously.
Yeah, I bet. Now, when you said that first movie came second, how many other movies were in the running for a place?
I'm not sure at the San Antonio Christian Film Festival. That was a Christian World Film Festival. But you just reminded me of something interesting. Being emboldened by that, when Alien Intrusion, the movie, came out, we just sent that off to a lot of film festivals, Christian and otherwise, because the movie is really about the saving power and grace of Jesus Christ. It's really less science-oriented, but more gospel-oriented. So we sent it off to a film festival called the Remi Film Festival, REMI.
Yep.
And this is the world's largest film festival. And, when you look at the history, some of the people like Francis Ford Coppola and Spielberg have entered it, etc. And so we sent it off, didn't hear any more. And then one day, a large envelope arrived in the office with a plaque saying we'd won a bronze award at the world's largest secular film festival. And so I thought, okay, what does a bronze award mean? So this was 2018, and I looked up that there were over 5,500 film entries that year. And a bronze award means you were ranked in the top 10%. So again, just putting the information out there. The Lord tells you his word will not go void. And just to think of all of those, if I could call them Hollywood types, sitting there watching a movie all about Jesus within the context of UFOs and aliens is amazing, really.
Well, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a great testimony. And people can still get a copy or watch that movie through your website. Is that the best way to search it up?
Yeah, they can go. We've got a streaming service on creation.com, so it can be downloaded, streamed, or they can buy the DVD version or the Blu-ray version, or they can even go on Amazon and get it. So it's on there as well.
So just search up Alien Intrusion.
Unmasking a Deception.
Unmasking a Deception. And your website is creation.com.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, really fascinating to talk with you. And I know you were a regular guest on Vision Radio when you were based in Australia. Yeah. So now that you're back, we're looking forward to hearing from you more and more. But I want to thank you so much for joining us on 2020 Today.
You're welcome. Good to be with you.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.